Lesson 11-5, multiplying integers, and in this lesson you learn to multiply integers using models. When are you ever going to use this? Knowing how to multiply integers can help you solve problems involving repeated addition with integers. So, making dragon heads for parades and celebrations is an ancient Chinese art form. It often takes 2 months to make one dragon head. So at this rate, how long does it take to make 5 dragon heads? So this is an easy multiplication problem. To answer this question, you just have to multiply 5 times 2. Remember that multiplication is repeated addition. Therefore, 5 times 2 simply means 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. So you can model this multiplication problem using counters. So step number 1, okay, or before we begin with using models, okay, at the end of 11-6 I will also show you how to multiply and divide integers, okay, without using models, okay, and it'll be a lot faster. Okay, so step number 1, 5 times 2 means to put 5 sets of 2 in positive counters. So place these counters on the mat, so you have your 5 sets of 2, and you are going to place it on that mat right there. So this is what it means when it says 5 times 2. And step number 2, it's simply count the counters on the mat. So after putting 5 sets of 2, you simply count that there are 10 positive counters. So 5 times 2 is 10. It will take 10 months to make the dragon heads. Okay, so let's take a look at example number 1. Use counters to find 4 times negative 2. Again, step number 1. 4 times negative 2 means to put 4 sets of 2 negative counters. Okay, so place these counters on the mat. So you have 4 sets of 2 negative counters. And then if we put them on the mat, is what you get. 4 sets of 2 negative counters. Okay, so you end up with, count the counters on the mat. There are 8 negative counters. This represents negative 8. So 4 times negative 2 is actually negative 8. Okay? And let's take a look at example number 2. Okay, right here. So multiply a positive integer times another number. You put that many sets. Okay, and this is important because this is how you multiply negative integers. So to multiply a negative integer times another number, okay, you do the opposite or remove that many sets. Again, I'm going to show you an easy way of doing this, but it's going to be at the end of 11-6. So right now you have to do it this way. So to multiply a negative integer times another number, okay, you do the opposite or remove that many steps. So let's take a look at example number 2. So use counters to find negative 2 times 3. So when you say negative 2 times 3, since negative 2 is the opposite of 2, okay, negative 2 times 3 means to remove 2 sets of 3 positive counters. Again, so negative 2 times 3 means to remove 2 sets of 3 positive counters, because it says here to multiply a negative integer times another number, you do the opposite or remove that many sets, and that's the reason why we're saying here remove 2 sets of 3 positive counters. But the thing is, you cannot remove counters because there are none to remove. So what do? You must first add 2 sets of 3 zero pairs, then you can remove 2 sets of 3 positive counters. Okay, so we first add our 2 sets of 3 zero pairs. So these are our 2 sets of 3 zero pairs. That's one set. And this is the second set of 3 zero pairs. Now we can remove 2 sets of 3 positive counters. So we get one set and another set. Remove those 2. You end up with negative 6 counters. So in step number 2, count the counters remaining on the mat. There are 6 negative counters, so this represents negative 6. So negative 2 times 3 equals negative 6. And you know what? I'm going to show it at the end of this lesson. Okay, so you don't have to wait. The easier way of doing this. Okay, but let's look at models first. So let's take a look at example number 3. use counters to find negative 3 times negative 4 times negative 3. So again, step number 1, since negative 4 is the opposite of 4, negative 4 times negative 3 means to remove 4 sets of 3 negative counters. Okay, but you cannot remove counters because there are none to remove. So again, we add 4 sets of 3 0 pairs. Okay, so we add our 4 sets of 3 0 pairs. Then now we can remove 4 sets of 3 negative counters. 1, 2, 3, 4, just like this one. So if we remove 4 sets of 3 negative counters, we end up with this number of positive counters. Counters remaining in the mat. There are 12 positive counters remaining. So this represents 12. Negative 4 multiplied by negative 3 is actually equal to 12. Okay? Example number 4. The temperature drops about 7 degrees for each kilometer above the Earth. Okay? If the temperature at ground level is 0 degrees Celsius, find the temperature 3 kilometers above the Earth. So in the Explorer, you know the temperature drop per kilometer above the Earth and the temperature at ground level. So you want to know the temperature 3 kilometers above the Earth. So how do we do this? We need to multiply 3 times the amount of change per kilometer, which is in this case, negative 7 degrees. Why negative 7 degrees? Because it drops 7 degrees for each kilometer. Okay? So from there, what we need to do to solve this, we need to multiply 3 times negative 7, which means to put in 3 sets of negative counters. 3 sets of 7 negative counters and place the counters on the mat. So we have 3 sets of 7 negative counters and that's what we get. So after that, we know that you have 21 negative counters on the mat. This represents negative 21. So 3 times negative 7 will give you negative 21. The temperature is negative 21 degrees Celsius. Okay? And if we want to check if our answer makes sense or not, we simply create our own vertical number line. Okay? So start from 0, mark 3 drops of 7 every single time. So the number line indicates the temperature will be at negative 21. Okay, so the answer is actually correct. Okay, and the secret word for this particular lesson is the secret word is donut. The secret word is donut. Okay, and thank you for watching. Oops, sorry, I forgot. Before I thank you for watching, I told you that I'm going to give you the shortcut method of doing this, and I'm doing that right now. So when you are multiplying integers, let's say you want to multiply 3 times 7, you know that this is a positive times a positive. You know for a fact that 3 times 7 is 21. So a positive times a positive will always give you a positive result. Okay? When you have negative 3 times 7, okay? Using what we learned in this lesson using models, negative 3 times 7 will give you actually negative 21. So if you notice, if I get a negative, and I multiply it with another negative, okay? So if I multiply it with another negative, the result will be a negative, okay? Let me give you another scenario. The last scenario would be if I have negative 3 times negative 7, the result would be, using models this time, from what we learned, that will be 21. So if you notice, a negative times a negative, and this one is a negative times a positive. So this is a negative times a negative will give you a positive. So those are the 3 possible scenarios. Okay, and this will hold true with division as well. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, and let's take a look at examples. So if I say 2 times 6, obviously that would be a positive times a positive, that would be a positive 12. If I say negative 3 times negative 4, you have a negative times a negative, which equals a positive. So this is actually still 12. If I have negative 7 times 5, you have a negative times a positive. That will give me a negative result, so that's negative 35. If I have 4 times negative 8, okay, you have a positive times a negative, which will result in a negative, so that's negative 32. Okay, so again, if you're multiplying like signs, the result will always be positive. So a positive times a positive is a positive, a negative times a negative is a positive. When you're multiplying unlike signs, the result will always be negative. Okay, so as promised, that's the shorter version of multiplying integers. Now, this is where I thank you again. Thank you for watching.